don't desperate because the industry goes up and down. You never know when something is coming from. For example, Magic the Gathering came for me in the unexpected moment. You just need to be there all the time. Just keeping doing what you like, showing it, because the good thing is every artist is unique and your voice is unique, and it doesn't matter what happened, nobody can take that and nothing can replace that. So it can work in a way that you don't expect. So just keep going and probably it will improve, and at some time something will come that you don't expect. But you need to be there to take it. I mean, you need to be ready to open the door to luck. So you need to be lucky, but you need to...
Concept artist Marina Ortega Lorente joins us for today's episode and talks about the highs and lows of her experiences as a professional that began over a decade ago. And in this episode, you can look forward to hearing how Marina's journey so far has played out and how she maintains her skill level whilst handling the demands of being a professional artist and the balance required for it. Marina was also caught up in the spate of layoffs from the last couple of years in the industry, and she reveals the eye-opening things that she learned during this time and how she navigated the uncertainty as well, plus much more. Let's go. Cool. Right, let's go. Everyone, welcome back to the Learnsquared Podcast. And I'm delighted to welcome one very special guest today, Marina Ortega Lorente. Welcome, Marina.
Okay, thank you. I'm very glad to be here. I'm always been fan of the podcast, so for me it's an honor to be here.
Awesome. Glad to have you on and looking forward to diving into some cool topics. But let's get the formalities out of the way. If you wouldn't mind just giving everyone a lowdown as to who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm concept artist and illustrator, specialize in environments and prop for concept art, video games and films, cinematics. And in illustration, I do book covers. I started working in Games Workshop for their books.
Nice.
And nowadays I'm working for Magic the Gathering. So I cover a bit of both things, concept art and illustration.
Awesome. It's a good spread of like different, I guess, disciplines. What's cool, I think, about our jobs is like it's one title, but there's like many different sectors in it as well. Do you like? Do you like one more than the other, or do you like them all equally, like children? Like you pretend you love them all, but there's one favorite, or do you genuinely like them all?
Yeah, it depends on the day. I guess when I'm working a lot in one, I miss the other.
Yes.
But originally, I always wanted to work in games. So probably if I need to choose one, it would be concept art for video games. Because I remember just, lots of first games like Final Fantasy VIII and Diablo, I don't know, things that I don't really know how I play because I didn't know English and they were in English. So I don't know how I did it. I guess I was more clever now than nowadays. And I always remember I want to do this. I don't know how it's called or anything. I want to do this. So I guess I started more as a concept artist, but I really like the part of environments that plays with mood and lighting and tells an history. So that's very close to illustration too. Because in an illustration, it's different purpose and different finish, but you are creating also that whole feeling of a place. So I guess they are related.
I like that take of like, I think a lot of people can relate to that as well. When you're doing one thing, you start wishing you did the other. If you're anything like me,
you get bored.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
like, too many concepts like orthographic views, and I want to do the cool image. And when you are doing the cool image, it's like, I'm tired of rendering, and I want to design. So it's jumping from one to another. Oh,
totally. And with me, it's always like, I only get that when I'm doing something else. But when I'm not doing anything else, I don't do either of them. So it's my own fault in the first place. So I don't know what that, I think that's the way my procrastination images and all that kind of stuff. What was it about, like, so environments you mentioned there, like you specialize in that. Did you know you always wanted to do environments, or did that occur later on?
I didn't think about that consciously. I just wanted. I love the characters in games and anything. So I used to draw kind of fan art as when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I remember I always felt like, oh, I want to be there in, for example, playing Final Fantasy VIII. That is right there, close to my heart.
Yeah.
So I remember I want to be in that Balam garden, walking around the school. I want to be in that city or the other city. For me, that were like real places. So I didn't think, oh, I want to design environment. But I know, for example, when you travel or you go around, it's like, oh, this reminds me to that place in the game. So it's not only the opposite that you take something from reality and you create something fantastic. No, it's just when I go to real places, sometimes I like them because they remind me to some games.
Yes. Interesting. So do you find that, because normally, I guess not normally, but normally you hear that like going somewhere or like a real life place or traveling inspires the fictional place. Yeah. But for you, it's in reverse.
Yeah.
Nice. Has that always been like that? Is that more like, or since you've been aware of it?
I think it's been more like that. So
nice. That's it.
Sometimes it creates a problem when you are trying to create personal work on purpose and taking. If you don't do it naturally, sometimes like, oh, what do I do? And but yeah, I lots of time I'm traveling from some new place and it's like, oh, this is like Midgar or this is like.
What was the last thing you saw then that reminds you of something?
Oh, well, last year I went to Switzerland, so it was totally Skyrim. Because nice. I went in winter and we went to some peaks, not hiking or anything, just like a lazy person, you know.
Same, I do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I pretend I've hiked.
Yeah, exactly. You just pop up, freeze, and come back. So we did that, and I took a lot of photos of the mountains, and it was fog over us and fog below us, and the colors. Wow. It was totally scary. I was listening to the music in my head. Nice. So I guess that's the last time it was very clear. Cool.
Was that like near Mont Blanc or anything, or was it somewhere else?
Yeah, the tallest we were to Zermatt.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
How's the name? You know the Toblerone mountain?
Yeah.
I think the one that is the brand of the Toblerone.
Yeah.
So that one. It was in Zermatt, but I don't remember the name of the mountain itself.
I guess because I think the highest peak there is Mont Blanc, so I'm assuming it's going to be the biggest one. Is that the first time you've been to that kind of like? Do you normally go to those kind of like, I guess, wintry or skiing type of holidays, or is that your first time there?
I went once to Estonia, and it was in the middle of a snowstorm, so that was the coldest thing I've seen. Yeah. And then that place in Switzerland too. Because I'm Spanish, so I'm not used to lots of snow all the time. And we have mountains, but I'm not used to it. And now here in England, it's not mountains.
Yeah, we got like a little bit of everything. It's very average. But as you probably know, living here, we can't handle the snow. Even like 1 centimeter, it just shuts everything down. Yeah. The reason why I ask is because like when I went to, I think it's Chamonix I went to, and it was like Mont Blanc, and it was like 7-8 years ago, and it was through work, and I was like, I didn't want to go. I was like, I don't want to go somewhere cold. Like, it's technically a holiday, very British, like it has to be somewhere warm or whatever. But when I first got there, I was like, wow. Like, first of all, visual inspiration. Like when you mentioned there, like just the atmospherics and the fog and just seeing snow getting blown off a peak top, and literally the peaks are so high, like your neck has to be like super 90 degrees just to even see it. Absolute creative.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of place. Yeah, I'm more I like more visiting those kind of places. The other holidays that were amazing for me was Iceland.
Oh, I've never been.
We go around Iceland almost 2 weeks, and that was epic. Totally epic.
But when was that? Was that like a recent thing as well, or like? So
It was
actually,
in 2019, right
so
before the pandemic, so
Yeah.
right on time.
Have you traveled much since the pandemic? Have you been able to?
The Switzerland, I went to Estonia, but that was a work thing. Not that much, because we also got the dog and I got lots of work, and at the end, I'm very bad planning, so
Same.
yeah.
I understand. And was your like traveling journey like are you a deliberate traveler? Like it's always like whenever there's time or there's a slot available, you're always looking for the next thing to travel to? Or is it something that just kind of happens and you just go with the flow?
Do you mean in the planning phase? Like
Or
I
just
try
like,
to
like
travel a
traveling-
lot, or
yeah,
or,
like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like for me, I'm like, just when it happens, I definitely don't seek it out. But I know like people who just like, whenever they get a chance, like the first opportunity they get, they're traveling and they want to go different places. So what's it like for you?
yeah, I like it a lot, but I am very quiet, home-loving person, so
Okay. Same. Yeah.
I enjoy them, the trips a lot when they happen. But yeah, it's hard for me to plan for them. So what I used to do, especially before the pandemic, because before the pandemic I was all the time freelance, it was going to events like IFCC, or I went to the one Masters of Gathering of Masters, I think, in Toronto.
Okay.
To the Promised Land in Poland. So every time we went, I went to the to those events. I booked extra days to travel. So my partner joined me before or after the event to go around.
Cool.
So we took that as excuse for traveling.
Yes.
So it was the big trip of the year. But yeah, I haven't been in so many events lately. Just the one-on-one in London. Because, well, not only the dog, that is always more difficult to travel, is the, I've been working more time full-time, remotely, but full-time. So I have less holidays. I have to count the days, and they stress me out a lot. Because
I can imagine.
It's like I have enough available days, and when I was freelance, it's just, okay, I book it, and I know it's not gonna make me miss another trip, so.
So you're back in like, so how long were you freelance for? And just to confirm, you're not freelance right now?
I'm
You're
still
like-
freelance.
Okay,
I'm all
okay.
the time
Get it.
I'm everything now.
Everything, okay. So how long's your freelance career? And
Yeah,
did you always start as freelance?
I started freelance in 2014.
Nice.
Well, I did something here and there, in uni, but doesn't count really.
Yeah.
So I started with in-games workshop doing illustrations as a freelance. And the first 2 or 3 months I got hired in my first small company to be a full-time concept artist. I stayed there just for 10 months or so, and then I become full-time freelance. And I've been freelance since then. So it's, about 10 years I've been freelance. But after the pandemic, it was 2022 or something like that, I stayed almost 2 years working for Sound, the Disco Elysium company. This year I'm in a full-time contract with Met. It's like full-time too. So yeah, it's more full-time, but I still freelancing for Magic the Gathering and things like that I can do at the side.
Did freelance happen by accident, or was it a deliberate journey for you?
I really like it, to be honest. That first company wasn't going too well. It was a bit dodgy at the end. So I left because I was saying things that weren't normal and they don't exist anymore.
Okay.
So I just went freelance because I was tired of it. But I always liked to work remotely.
Yeah.
And before it was less common to work remotely full time. So I went freelance, and Also, what I like about freelance is that you get to pick and choose more projects and different people. You get less tired of one thing. Again, what I said about the holidays, you don't need to count days. You just, okay, you need to earn money, but you can choose.
Yes.
So it's the freedom in general of choosing, and they tend to come and hire you for something that fits you very well. And that's it. And if you don't like a client, you can just say no the next time, or okay, I like this client, but I get super tired because it's very hard, so I can do this project and then rest. Also, having the breaks in between projects, if they go too long, it can be scary, but they never went too long. And I love that to do classes or just take a break. I don't know, a brain refresh. So I really like that.
Nice. I mean, freelance is, I guess, like, I think for a lot of people, it's like the goal. Like, it seems like the if people start off in a studio, or maybe the students, I'm sure their career path is get hired by somebody and then eventually go off on your own and do your own thing. But with freelance, like, and it's like, I guess, people can explain to you, people can like sell it to you, but until you go through it, you can't really know how it's really going to affect you. For some people, it's going to be, okay, this is perfect, I can handle everything. For some, it's so good that things fall apart because either they focus too much on the time that they have or not able to manage the time that they have. And yeah, like, some people prefer to go back into the structure that's kind of made for them. Did you have any of those kind of wobbles or battles, or has it always clicked for you, freelance?
Well, it has its inconvenience too. But, well, as a freelance, sometimes they hire you as a concept artist, usually they hire you per day. So while you are in the project, it's a bit similar to being full-time, almost. But I guess it's a problem that can happen if you work remote too, it's easy to get isolated. At the same time, I really like it because I don't even like drawing if there's anybody around. I just block, and I hate meetings, for example. They just make my brain disconnect like forever. So it's like, leave me alone all the time. But at the same time, when you spend too much time like that, and if you are not very outgoing, before having the dog, for example, I wasn't especially outgoing. So I could spend the full week just working on going to the gym and the rest time at home. And in the long run, it affects the mind. I don't know. You start to feel separated from reality a bit. It's a bit weird.
Yeah.
So it's a problem because at the same time you love it, but you need connection and you need something around. So, for example, in that sense, working remotely, the dog helped me a lot because it makes me, the structures the day you go out and there is always someone talking to him and saying something to you, just speaks with someone around, and that just connects you a bit again with the world.
Yeah, no, it's totally true. It's I can totally relate to that, and similar to yourself, like, I am happy in my zone, in my space, and I can do that repetitively. But similar to yourself, I think, like, I realized when it was too late that it was a problem that I needed to address it. Yeah. Because you think, well, I'm here and I'm doing stuff. But obviously, like, when you look at it logically, it makes complete sense to like take a break and step away. How does it affect your art, being able to break your routine by taking the dog out for a walk and just having a different interaction versus what your brain wants to do, which I guess is like just make art and do stuff all the time? How has it improved your art, or has it improved maybe not the art, but maybe some other aspect of yourself as a person?
Yeah, I think it makes me less anxious because when you stay all the time, like, I remember all the time trying to learn something, to improve something, create something personal, and you get super obsessed with that. And also in my case, I wasn't creating much more necessarily. I was just overthinking it more. And so it makes you do other things and it refreshes your mind. But I'm still trying to reconnect a bit with personal work, and because what I did is also working full time, but keeping the freelance side of things, like doing illustrations on the side, or it's like I don't do that much personal work, because otherwise, if I do 2 jobs and then I do personal work, and I wouldn't have time for, I don't know, playing a game or going out from time to time, or I don't know. So I'm still trying to reconnect with the personal work and the learning thing, because what happened to me with time is that I became more exigent with the personal work. Or, for example, if I'm attending a class online and I'm doing something for myself, I tend to not finish it because I start or changing my mind or thinking it's not good enough or burning out from it. And at the end, I don't finish anything personal. While if it's client work, it's not only the money, it's the time you need to finish. They put the rules, they give you feedback. It's like, you cannot change the subject all the time or approach it in 1,000 ways because you don't have time. Yes. It's just, you did this, could be better, could be worse, but you did this and you take the path and finish something for someone. But if it's for you, it's like, oh, the time is, or the idea is very vague, or I have too many ideas at the same time, or change every day. It's like, oh no, and if I do this differently, or if I use this other program, or I don't know, I always get stuck somewhere. Yeah. So I became too dependent on having someone telling me what to do. And that's the next step I want to fix. So, for example, I realized I needed to get out more and things like that. So you learn that on the job when that hits you. So now I'm trying to make peace with the personal work and don't put too much judgment on it, or try to remember why I'm doing it and not trying to make that another job, you know?
I like the way you just said making peace with it. Like, it is like a battle, like a war, like being a professional, doing your own thing, realizing your vision, resting because your body's like, what the hell's going on, man? Like, you know, take a rest at least. Like, there's so much going on. That's a very poetic way to explain that. What's your status like now with your personal work? What's the, you know, is it war zone? Is it like a wartime, or is it a time of peace?
Is time of peace, but because I'm not touching it too much. So I retouched it a bit during the summer while I had a gap in work. But yeah, I'm trying to plan for next year how to, I don't know, how to approach it again. But again, not putting again like goals that I need to do this by then, but no, it's like what I want from it and how to not feel bad about it. That is hard because I always been that way, and most artists are that way. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I did a drawing because I wanted my parents to play with me instead of doing something they were doing. So I just make a drawing and it's like, look, this drawing is for you if you play with me. And they love it. It's like, oh my God, there was some flowers, or the composition is fantastic. I didn't like it that much. I did it like, I don't know, to get something. Yeah. So they put it on the wall, and I spent lots of time doing other drawings that I thought they were better just to impress them, but they didn't like them so much than like that one. So since I was a kid, I was like fighting all the time with myself.
How old are you when you was doing that?
Well, I don't know, 6 years old or 7.
Oh, cool,
I don't know,
cool.
I was stupid. And then when I was a teenager and I was trying to draw more, I remember I was copying characters from games, from, I don't know, the manuals or anything like that. But when I tried to create something new from my head, it was way worse, naturally, because I didn't have any visual library or references or anything. I was just trying to do magic. Like, yeah, it's gonna appear here. And I was super angry with myself, like, I cannot draw anything. So it's been always that bit of a fight.
Yes.
So, but at the same time, I really enjoy it. So I want to find a balance of just enjoy it and remember it doesn't need to be perfect or amazing or the most original thing ever. Because when I don't try that hard, usually it's better.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
Like when I was a kid, that drawing, when I didn't try so hard, I was just trying to get something. It was better than when I was trying hard. So that's what I want to tame next year. Probably.
What's your take on like why do you think that is? Why do you think almost like the low effort or like the lack of not overthinking things makes something more relatable or more connect to an audience?
I think in my case it's not overthinking so much, because when even in professional work, when I trying to do it very well or follow some techniques like doing I'm gonna do a very clean 3D. This is going to be amazing. And at the end it's always a mess, because what I do is I hit a wall, or because technically for some reason I get stuck, or because I don't know how to improve it. And at the end I just overpaint on top of it and create a mess and just go with the flow, and then it gets solved. At least for me. It could be cleaner or maybe in other style, but for me it works at the end. What gives it like something more special is when I don't overthink it or try to overanalyze it. And I think with personal work, the same. When I start without any purpose, just I'm doing something, then it becomes something. It's like, this could be this or that. But if I start from the start, like this is gonna be big, I'm gonna do something amazing, and I'm gonna plan for it, then no.
Really?
No.
Is that every time? Do you find that the case?
Most times. Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, well,
I'm the same.
In case some tests, I remember my first test for Games Workshop. I put a lot of care on it, but actually I failed the first time. So I just repeated, because they said, no, this is not exactly what we want, but you can repeat it. And I went again to repeat it. Just changing some things and following more the style that other artists do in that place. So sometimes I put the effort and it works. But you know what? It's when you forget trying to look all the logic, because sometimes the instinct, especially in art, because art is not just the technique, I guess. I see my images and I see them sometimes dirty, or I want them to be more clean or more polished. But I guess that lining sense or that mood is not something you can create just like, if I put this light with this percentage of strength in this corner. No, it's just something like it's in your head. I remember this place, or this feels scary for me, and you do that, and at the end it's more you than trying to learn some rules and apply them. It's a balance of both, I guess. But
what's your process like? Obviously, I'm sure it's different depending on the brief and obviously the type of work that you're doing. And it doesn't have to be like, I guess, like something like clearly set. Maybe it can be abstract as well. But what is your process kind of like? Do you find that like you have a predictable way of working or searching for the solution?
Well, yeah. Again, it depends a lot on the subject. But yeah, usually, I'm scared at the start, so I look for a lot of references. Hit a wall for a bit, then use a bit of 3D. Depends on the subject, it's Blender or 3D Code, or sometimes I use VR. It's a bit too wild for me, but it's interesting for sometimes. And then sometimes the 3D is more polished and I just overpaint a bit, or I go totally crazy over it and overpaint a lot. And the 3D sometimes is even just gray blockouts and then overpaint everything. It depends on the subject. For example, also the client, because depends if they want something faster or more realistic, or for example, magic, we need to make it quite painterly because it's like paintings. So, or I overpaint a lot, or even when the 3D is a bit more developed, I overpaint a lot. Other times, if it's for a prop design, maybe it's more 3D and just line work on top to explain some details. Or so it depends. But
which process or workflow do you think gets your best workout or finds the best solutions from you? That makes sense.
Well, at the end, I tend to use always a bit of 3D, but I always overpaint too. So I'm not. Sometimes I want to be better at 3D or technical stuff and create more polished renders, but I just can't. For example, I can't use render passes. That is very typical. Everybody uses render passes for fog, but every time I try it, I want to change something in the environment, like, oh, this tower might be better here, or add another one, and I do it over painting, so the render passes just get spoiled because I add something. So, and I think that's gonna be just me. Even if I try to get better at 3D, I think better just throwing paint on top. So I guess it's less scary for me and faster to start with some 3D, and then just have fun painting. That's what I enjoy the most, because I also got lazy with the time. Like, start drawing from just zero. Now it takes longer. You make mistakes. I say, no, my God, the fundamentals, where are they?
Yeah.
You want them. So sometimes, I don't know, it's just faster to start with some 3D, even if it's basic. But I don't, even when I achieve to do a bit more polished 3D and just overpaint the minimal part, I don't enjoy them that much. I feel like afterwards the connection with that piece is not as strong as when I spend time painting over them. So I don't want to lose that, even because I want to get better at 3D just to be more efficient and faster, but not to do final probably shots like that unless there is a project that I really like and that's the requirement. But for myself, I always want to see some painting, and it's just fun. I don't know. There's something to the.
And let's say miraculously everyone becomes super rich and doesn't need to work anymore. So therefore, there's no more industry, and there's no need to create anything. What would your workflow be in that timeline? Would you stick with 3D? Or would you go back to something that's maybe was a bit more in your early days?
Yeah, that's interesting. I guess it could be more painting.
Nice.
Sometimes I still enjoy traditional drawing, but also I get so used to digital and changing things that I make mistakes all the time that I cannot fix. So I get angry at that. But what I enjoy, for example, in doing traditional is like doing virtual plein air, but in traditional with markers and things like that.
Nice.
So it's something that is in front of me. I really enjoy that for relaxing. I guess for creating something for myself, it would be more painting. But it's the same as concept and illustration. I guess if I paint a lot, I miss the 3D part.
Yes.
But I mean, I like the 3D. That is the more intuitive it is, the better for me. So I really love. That's why I started doing 3D with 3D code.
Yes.
Because it was more like put this chunk here, code here, a hole. So I really like that. I guess I wouldn't totally discard it, but if I have to choose just one forever and ever, I would choose painting.
Nice. I hear what you say there about like 3D content being intuitive. Like I love the same kind of thing as well. You mentioned VR a while ago as well. Like there's something intuitive about that, except the big goggles on your head and the
Oh, yeah.
wires. I've got the I
The
don't even know which
battery
one
and
it
the
is.
connection and
The Rift 2, so there's still like 15 wires connected to you kind of thing.
very
but
cyber.
but once you're connected, just moving and things just kind of like, I don't think there's any lag or anything with that. There's something really cool versus just mouse and pen. Yeah, so like, why do you think, and I guess it's kind of like a bit of a loaded question because I think intuition and art is the key, like it has to be both. But why do you think, or why is it for you that intuition is key for you to create?
Because if I'm thinking on, this edge and this vertex is creating this way shadow and I cannot extrude this in the direction I want, I cannot think of what I'm doing actually. So about the design, I'm thinking of how the hell I can,
Yes.
or it freezes and, so
that
I like
happen-
something that I can see in 3D, but if I could do this in 3D, I would be happy. I would be very happy.
I can totally relate to that. Do you find you get lost in that as well, like the technical aspect sometimes with 3D?
Yeah, because I try to improve and it's like, okay, I'm going to learn and to do this better so I don't get angry at that so much. But then I go to the rabbit hole very easily.
Yeah.
And it doesn't end. I don't know. And then sometimes if you don't use it for a couple of projects, you forget it and you not have to come back and relearn it. So, it's love and hate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like when it's all clicking, everything that's, you think this is the best thing ever. Like, I'm going to use this every single day. And the moment it just falls apart or breaks or does something that it shouldn't be doing and you can't make sense of it, then it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
When did you get into 3D? Was it like a specific moment or was it like a gradual thing?
No, it was, when I started, actually, the first 2 years, I just did 2D. And then in 2016, I think, I did the Learnsquared course of 3D code with Yama. And yeah, that got me started with the 3D because before just also Blender back then was a bit too weird.
Yeah, it's very specific.
Yeah. So I started with 3D code and it's like, this is like a simpler, at least with the guidance of the class, simpler seed brush. So I always liked seed brush, but I never got to learn it properly because I learned part, but then it gets forgotten in 2 months if I don't use it. So I'm still relearning it all the time. I will keep trying, but again, 3D code is more, for concept work, probably is just more approachable. It's a bit weird too. It has its things, but following a class with someone like Yama, it was very easy to get going and do rough concepts of all kinds with it. Maybe it's not very polished, but it's just very good to just get started. And so I started using it a lot for, I still use it a lot for concept art.
Nice. And before the jump to 3D, was it like kind of in the back of your mind or like people are using that, I want to use it? Or were you a stubborn artist who's like, no, I'm happy with my 2D. I don't need to use that.
No, it's just, it was cool and very useful and I like the results. So I wanted to learn it. It's not like nobody came to me and tell me, you need to do this, but I just want it. And I know it's not like you need to miss all the 2D. Again, I'm trying to keep both. And to be honest, it's most jobs, they really appreciate it. I still, I know because they have lots of views, be more cohesive and it's just faster. I have different versions in more, but I'm always fascinated by, they like your model sometimes. So the 3D artists have a base to work from. But when I think that horrible topology that I can send them from 3D code and it's like, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but there you go. So at least they can check it in the 3D space, I guess. But I'm not sure if they transform it to something usable or just work on top of it. Maybe they work on top of it. But yeah, they always appreciate if you can use 3D.
And advice for a lot of the beginners that are listening. Obviously, there's a lot of tools, and these tools can do crazy things. Even back then, even now as well. Like you can just stick to one tool and probably make everything. And there's 10 ways to do the same thing. But I guess to kind of not get lost in all of that noise, what would you say are the, especially with tools, maybe even 3D or just even workflow in general, what kind of, I guess, core things would you say people should keep an eye on and focus on more than anything else to be a professional at least?
That's hard because it's something that never goes away. Like thinking, you are gonna feel proud of your work one day. No. And you're gonna be sure what you need to use. No.
Yes,
they are gonna keep throwing new programs or new things to you. But I guess, having some kind of 3D tool and proper 2D skills. I mean, fundamentals are fundamentals. Nothing is gonna work if you don't know the basics. I mean, maybe you don't need to be super precise or have the best perspective skills, but you have to have something in your brain ingrained because you learn it. But apart from the fundamentals and the 2D skills, it's always good to have some kind of 3D, even if it's very basic, at least for concept art. And from my point of view, even for illustrations, I don't know, it helped me to go faster most of the time. But it's a madness of programs, and sometimes what most people use maybe doesn't resonate with you. So I say, just try the thing that gets you excited, because you are gonna learn it like more happily and more naturally. Soon you will see if you are fighting all the time against it, probably other thing is more natural for you. So for example, that's what happened with me with Blender. Right. I use it a lot, but if I'm all the time trying to get the final image in Blender, probably it's gonna be worse than someone that is very good at Blender and is very natural at it. And it's not gonna be my image or my soul there. So at the end is, I guess, just try to see what you are excited about to try. Try it. If it goes well, you will notice and you will start using it for different works, different jobs. If not, and you're all the time fighting with it, probably try another thing. I don't know. And sometimes it depends on the kind of concept. You say, I love to use this for characters, or I love to use this for environments that are sci-fi but organic. I love to use it. I have ruins, for example, an environment with ruins. Probably, 3D code is very easy.
Yes.
So at the end, depends on what you get more comfortable for what thing. Just try them, and if you don't like to learn something because you hate it from the start, it's like probably don't do that.
Yes.
I mean, there is lots of people that enjoy it and they are doing it.
I mean, especially like since when you started your freelance career in 2014, in that era, or maybe from like say 2010 or just the 2000s in general, the amount of tools that kept coming and changing things and doing things, and it was fun. I'm sure the same for yourself as well, like just fun trying all these different things and even getting lost into them. What was your relationship with that though? Like, were you able to kind of like keep it sensible and not get lost in these things and get caught up in like new workflows and new tools? Or did you almost lean into it even more just to see what works for you?
Yeah, well, at the start, again, I spent lots of time in just 2D, but because it was more the photo basing times than 3D yet. So I did more of that, but because I like it. And at the end, the problem nowadays is all the options you have and all the internet resources you have, because before we didn't have so many, and in a way it was like ignorance makes you just focus on what you have in front of you. Also at the start I didn't know very well English. So until 2013 or so, I didn't get access to so many classes or anything like that. So I just have a few. I guess part of that ignorance, it was bliss. Because you just wanted to learn doing it 2D and do it better and better. And then when the 3D became more popular and I had more resources and I was already working in English, just having access to classes, then I always use classes just to get I didn't go to any school. Well, I went to university to study fine arts for 5 years, but that wasn't related at all to this.
Right.
So I started with CGMA, some classes there of a variety of topics. So I started to learn the concept art workflows there, but it was fully 2D back then. And when there was some 3D there, but I have enough with what I have here. I didn't worry about that. Then with this 3D code, I started with 3D more. Later on, then I learned Blender with another class. I took the Bogan Link. I don't know how to pronounce it. Heavy Poly.
Yeah.
Class, and that always classes that focus on 3D for concept art. That helped me a lot too. Because when I tried before a bit exploring 3D, it was focused on 3D artists and it was super specific and it didn't click with me. So again, I tried that, but it didn't work. I was just coming back to 2D. So yeah, I get more problems nowadays that I know more things. I have more options. It's like, maybe I should get more into Unreal, or should I focus on improving more on this program or the other?
But it's cool as well because like you've got now, obviously looking back at all those miles and hours you put into it, like you said, like you got all these different tools, these different weapons, so to speak, that when there's time to, complete the task, you know exactly which one's going to help you. Whereas if you are in a situation where you only have that one tool, which is fine, but you have to make that work every single time. And sometimes, it can be inefficient or what have you. It'd be a great thing as well, but it makes sense. Are you happy with your tool set and workflow now, or are there new things or other kind of like things that you haven't tried yet that you want to add to your, I guess, weapons belt?
So yeah, I agree, because if you just focus on one thing, sometimes it works, but for example, Blender has some sculpting tools, but I learned 3D code before, and I just like it more what it does, so I don't try to get into sculpting in Blender so much, because I have another tool that does it better for me, at least for now. But yeah, I'm tempted sometimes to, for example, in Real 5, people doing some amazing things there. I'm not sure if it's going to fit in my workflow too much, but yeah, I'm curious. And I have the Gaia, for terrains.
Yeah. I haven't played with it too much, but I'm familiar with it, yeah.
Yeah, again, the same. I got the program because from the start, without knowing much what to do, I got some cool things for backgrounds, and I don't know, I really like it. But again, I'm not sure if it's gonna get too technical for what I need most of the time. That's the problem, because sometimes if you learn something and you don't use it so much, it fades a bit.
Yeah, that happens to me so much. Yeah, like you said, like 2 weeks, you think like, yes, I know this. Something happens, then you come back a month later thinking, what does this button do again? And you totally forget.
Yeah, but still, I think sometimes I found that frustrating, but it's kind of I think it's a survival of space in your brain. So you just put things that you're interested in. And for example, if you need that again, you probably review it. And the more times you come back to it, more it stays in your brain.
Yes.
While if you, at the end, if you don't use it that much or don't need it, it's fine if you don't remember so much. So it's not lost. It's going to be there. It's like riding a bicycle. So next time you have to relearn it, it's not going to be as the first time. It's gonna be faster probably. So it's not lost. I guess I find it less frustrating now. It's just the things you most use and you get more familiar with at the end is what stays there. So yeah.
And back to personal work. When you mention doing personal work, like is it specific, just like topics or subject matter you want to tackle, or are they like potential worlds? Because you mentioned environments is your specialty. Like, is it literally like, okay, I have this universe that I want to flesh out in this particular, shape or form, and that's where it kind of like makes you put the brakes on it just to make sure it's realized? What's your relationship with that?
Yeah, sometimes I just have a random idea that is fine, but I tend to have a couple of projects around that I want to come back. I try to use them as an excuse to come back when I want to learn something. And again, but I would like to flesh out to something bigger. I don't know if put together for a book at some point or who knows. But yeah, I have one that is the Lost Fissure. It's kind of a futuristic Norse environment thing. It's more, it's an excuse to make something fantastic. Right. And kind of in a cold setting that I like it. An alien setting too. And then I have another that is probably less about the aesthetics, but I like more the psychology of it and the topic. It's the Unborns. It's kind of more horror, psychological, maybe nowadays a slightly futuristic thing. So I use them when I want to create something personal. Like, I can continue with this or with this, depending on what I'm learning or what I'm creating. I continue with one or the other.
Nice. And so, how long has that been going on for? Like these projects, have they been living and existing and slowly coming to life for a while, or are they quite new?
Yeah, as I'm not like trying to finish anything with them, it's just that I come back to them from time to time.
Okay, yes.
For a long time, actually, since 2017 or 16. The first image from the Lost Fissure was for one contest that I won for CGMA. So I get tickets for the Gathering of Masters in Toronto. Back then it was called, how was it called? I don't know. It was about alien planets from CGMA, and I did that. And then it's like, oh, it's cool. Maybe I want to flesh out more this race and more these environments and how humans discover this place. But it's like I want them to be aliens, but more fantastic, not just super sci-fi. So I don't know, I guess inspirations from Skyrim and all the alien things, and I don't know. Then, for example, with time, I had an idea of I was playing Red Dead Redemption, and the main character has a journal.
Yes,
and he draws on it.
Yes.
So I think, I want to do some journals like that for humans exploring this planet. So I did some images of like humans that arrive to that alien planet, and they are sketching locations or creatures. So just randomly, when I have some ideas, sometimes I focus them on those worlds. It's not that I'm trying to develop for now something cohesive or really have a plan for it.
Yes.
But it's like when I want to create something or have an idea, I try to connect that with those two projects. And the other was it was for IFCC too. They did some, I think it was a contest too, and I create a horror creature. It was two Siamese twins, like people that were dead in unfair circumstances, or a waste of life, or in the case of the twins, maybe they were born just stillborn, so they didn't get to live. So they were creatures that normal people cannot see, but some people can see walking around, like a parallel reality. And I really like those kind of paranormal parallel reality things and horror stuff but that happens at the same time in a world that is very close to you, like very normal setting. So I don't know, it started like that, and I did several unborns and had some ideas about it. So it depends on what idea comes to my mind. I connect it to one project or the other. Cool. Because it's topics that I usually like, so it's easy for me to connect it.
And since you've been doing these, obviously, like with anything, when it's client work or when it's especially deadlines, like I guess that's where most of the stress or the least fun parts of doing this job come about, because it's like you have to finish it, you have to find a solution, especially when it's like a battle, when whatever you're offering isn't kind of clicking and it's like trying to get to a place. Have you reached that stage with your personal work yet, or not yet?
No, because I don't set deadlines, but at the same time, that makes me, well, when I was starting or earlier on those initial years, I tend, because I have more time and less work, and I tend to finish them more. But now that I know more, it's like I'm more exigent, like, oh, is this at the level it should be? And at the end, or is the idea good enough or original enough? And then you keep, or if you don't have much time and do a bit, then it happens lots of time until you can finish, but by then you change your mind already, and you have more ideas about how it should be. At the end, I finish them less regularly. So maybe I start, but it's like, one day I want to finish this properly, you know. Maybe I stay until halfway or almost finish, but it's always there, like.
Which one do you love the most? Or are they all, again, like you want to give your attention to all of them? Because I guess like we all have them where we've got like these ideas and things we really want to do. And there's always that kind of one or two that are like, oh, if I nail that one, that's going to be the one that's like, it's just going to be awesome, or what you want to give to the world kind of thing. So yeah, what's your relationship like with all these projects? Like, do you have a favorite, or are they all right now purely equal to you?
Yeah, I think the Unborns one connects with me a bit more in the abstract them, the psychological and the history. And the other, I like it more when I want to do some world building, to design props or an environment for a fantasy world. And the other is more creating the idea behind it. So I guess I connect a bit more with the Unborns.
Cool.
The other is more like a design, or I miss fantasy things. But yeah, maybe if I have to choose one, probably Unborns. Yeah.
Nice. And when you're like, I guess, working on your these personal worlds, these worlds that you're fleshing out, how much of it, and I guess it's like a loaded question because it kind of explains itself, but how much of it is still stuck in your head? And does it live more in your head, or do you only acknowledge it when it's realized on canvas?
Yeah, I think actually I think I have more connection with the Unborns, because it connects a bit more with my daily life.
Nice.
Because, for example, some of those monsters were based on things I see or experience. Like, there was also kind of a homeless monster that I did there. And it was based on, because for a while, well, in the previous flat I was living, we used to see, I used to see through the window a homeless guy that spent days and days in the bus stops in front of my building, like sleeping there doing nothing. And it fascinates me a bad and curious way, like how is spending your life just staying there? Like,
Yes.
it's kind of like the world cannot see him. I don't know, like those kind of realities were in that kind of parallel reality. So that's what gave me the idea for that unborn creature. And the setting the same is I did it more similar to Manchester, because I love Manchester, but it's really a very industrial place. It's like a tiny Gotham. So
That's a good take. Yeah.
yeah, I really like it.
Yes.
But yeah, it gave me lots of ideas for that. The canals, we have lots of canals, but they are super dirty inside. So it's kind of creepy to think what is below the water.
Yes.
Have another image going on, of creatures trapped below the water. Because I was walking the dog one day and the dog stayed stuck looking at the water in the middle of the night, and there was nothing there. I was like,
Wow.
what are you doing? So
Yes.
it gave me an idea, what's below the water? So
Sick.
I don't know. Those kind of ideas just connect more with me. So I want to take all of those inspirations and put it together in a more cohesive history. But again, if I start to forcing it, it loses the charm. So when I get, for some reason, inspiration from something I see, then maybe I start another image or start thinking on the next thing for that project. But yeah, for now, just slowly, not intending anything for it. Because then it becomes another job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I can totally relate to that as well. And it's something that I've experienced as well, where like there's certain things or certain threads or projects or whatever that I think, yes, now is the time to like go into it. But then when it's kind of like being forced or being made to cook quicker than it is, right? Like you're cooking a cake, you're baking a cake, and needs X amount of hours to cook, but you want to eat it in half an hour. It's not going to taste good. But you kind of like force it, then it doesn't end up tasting good. So you let it kind of cook and let it kind of simmer. But do you ever get to the situation where you think, if you're like, it's going to happen, like it's never going to get realized, or it's never going to get completed? And I guess nothing will ever get completed, but does that kind of give you FOMO, or does that kind of give you like regret?
A bit, yeah. But at the same time, it's like, why I'm doing it? I'm doing it to stress myself and lose the interest on it, or I'm doing it when I have an interesting idea to put it there. But yeah, it's like, I want to do something with it, and time passes. But at the same time, also I think when I try to get more back into it when I have more time, but being realistically, if I have job full time or even more, because I take more job in the sides, I'm not gonna sacrifice the gym, the few time I have for playing games or watch TV shows or things like that, or doing other things for just doing this, unless I feel like it. Maybe one day I want it, but if not, I learned that for me, forcing it is just brings bad things. So I try to not feel guilty. It's like, okay, you have enough work. Fine. You are doing well. Fine. Yeah, you could be better. You could be releasing more things. Yeah, everything. But.
And would you say like you kind of come to like, not saying you were never there, but like you got like kind of like inner piece of where you are as a creative and what kind of creative you are?
What? Sorry?
So like, do you find like now you're at a place where like you understand yourself as an artist and a creative and what you need from it and what you can give to it?
Yeah, a bit more. Or at least I'm trying to take it less than, I don't know what I'm doing, or I need to finish this, or no, I should be better. I'm taking it like, okay, if you were amazing and exactly what you want to be tomorrow and you release your project tomorrow, what's next? So, I mean, probably the fun is just the process of trying to discover that, or have some time of, making progress, making cool new things, or other times that you just want to rest more, and that's fine. I mean, Other thing would be if you are stuck. I get the stress of breaking into the industry or things like that, but at some point I discovered like, okay, I'm putting this crazy pressure on myself, and I have a job, and I have sometimes trouble taking more jobs. So it's like, stop worrying, overthinking, and feeling like you should always do more or finish more or do better. I mean, yeah, you can always do better, but if you are having job and you are doing things, it's because something is not magic.
Yes,
So,
true. And I guess that pressure you mentioned, like that's something I think everybody does, or is quite common, especially early on. Like
you need to get used to it. Like,
exactly.
it's gonna be
like,
there.
Like life, you just want to make it, whatever it is. Like you just need to make it. You need to get good. Everyone's very familiar. Even the ones that have an inflated ego are very familiar with understanding when they feel like they're not there yet and what they want to do to get where they need to get to. When did you realize that you didn't need to put that pressure on yourself, or was it something that happened that made you realize you needed to stop?
Yeah, well, it is still happening lots of time, to be honest. It's just, but now I know it better because right before the pandemic, right before, I had some anxiety crisis, like horrible. Of course, the pandemic didn't help because it made all super weird. And that was that time that, oh yeah, I realized I need to get out more, forget about, and then you cannot get out more or forget about job, or I don't know. It was very weird setting to get in that state. But yeah, I think it's just the way you take things. Sometimes it's like you're taking it too seriously. I mean, are you okay now? Yeah. You're enough, probably. You are doing well enough. And you're doing this for what? And to enjoy. But are you enjoying it? No. Are you? So what's the point? At the end, it's like to impress someone or for 2 minutes.
And one more final question about your personal stuff. You mentioned there, like, there's like there's no pressure to do anything for it with deadlines and stuff. But let's get to the stage where like you fleshed it out. It's in a very healthy place. It's almost ready to be released to the world. Obviously, like when you're creating something, you have a very different relationship to whoever's consuming it. Like whoever's consuming it cannot. I personally believe like can never really understand the creator's perspective on that particular piece of work. Take Star Wars, for example. The original trilogy is considered a classic, yet George Lucas personally hated the experience of making them. So if you asked him, it'd be like, no, the prequel trilogy is the way I was in my happy place, for example. But the fans prefer when he was in his unhappy place. But my long-winded point is, when you've refreshed them out, you want to release them, how do you want the audience to experience what you've created? Is it through like a particular medium or anything else?
I don't know, because I didn't think about any product. Being realistic, I don't do any animation or like to get into that at all. So probably it would be just something more like a book. So I guess it could be, well, because what I like most and I like to experience more is games. Because it's like a conjunction of everything, like books, films, and you experience it. I don't know, just you can stay there for a long time.
Yes.
But I cannot do a game by myself, and I'm not that kind of person of try to learn code and think and just, I don't know. So probably it would be something just visual. I guess it would be nice. It would be nice to be that kind of thing that inspires you or you feel is different. So, or that concept that you remember or stays in your mind. For example, that idea of parallel reality. from what I mentioned in this project. It also comes from a comic book I read. It was Midnight Nation, or something like that. So maybe I don't remember the details of the history, but I remember that concept, that click of, oh, there are people around us that falls through the cracks, or the daily. So a concept that like that kind of stays in your mind, or be the kind of book that sometimes you just come back to the self and rewatch because you like the idea or something in the style. So for me, it's more than the technical skill or the complexity of is that there is something there that inspires you and you don't find in any other place. I think that's what I would like.
Nice. You mentioned earlier, like Final Fantasy was very influential, especially in the earlier days. What was the last thing that inspired you to a profound level?
Well, not of course. It's different when you remember the first experience you had as a kid in something and you cannot repeat that. But nowadays, usually I'm very attached to the things that CD Projekt do. For example, I really like Cyberpunk. I'm playing it again. And I don't usually replay games, especially because I have a queue of games I want to play. And that's very long. And it's not only the idea of the history or the aesthetics. It's a bit how it feels like a real world. Because sometimes I would think that I would like to just stay in the game, walking around Night City, because I like to be there. I like to see what's happening in the streets, and like to explore every corner. Even just walking around would be fun. I like how the voice of some characters. I just like to be there.
Nice.
So because some games you see, oh yeah, the mechanics are super fun, or oh, the history is very profound, but I like those games that I like to stay there.
Yes. Oh, that's for
a while.
Yeah, I can very much relate to that. I've only just started playing Cyberpunk. It'll probably take me 10 years to even finish it because I have to purposely like avoid the PlayStation in particular because it will, once I'm hooked and everything falls apart. But nevertheless, like it's very, very cool. But I know what you're saying. Like when you're talking about like staying in a game, I just had flashbacks to many gaming memories growing up. And yes, I like the act of completing the game, following the storyline. But sometimes, like you just said, I just want to explore, walk around, and just see what's there, and almost like escape into what that tale is. The one that really does it for me on a very like deep level is Shadow of Colossus or Shadow of the Colossus. I love it so much I don't even know how to pronounce the game properly. But that was one PS2. Very like looking back in the graphics now, like the way it just made
the music.
Everything was like that, and obviously other open world games are probably the better ones because you can literally walk around and there's a lot more
like follow. You forget about the main mission, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's some games where you're like, oh, I want to look over there. Uncharted is another one where like there's so much to explore, but it literally keeps you on that path, which is totally fine as well. But no, that's excellent. One game haven't finished yet, and it's one I'd love to explore, but it doesn't let you. Is I just got the name. Inside.
Yeah, but I haven't played.
The guys made Limbo, so it's like a side-scroller type game. It's like it's one of those things where like they just made a world, and it's very simple, but what they've suggested just makes you think, what is the rest of this universe like? Like how more horrible or how more intriguing or mysterious?
Yeah, it's more like the effect it creates in your mind sometimes than the final product all chew for you. It's like, I don't know, what it starts.
Yes.
So do you have any favorite kind of a style of game or?
Honestly, no, because I'm very open-minded to anything. My daughter and I have started playing Cat Quest, Cat Quest 2. I just look for anything that's decent and local co-op because, you know, that's the only thing we can play. And that seems fun. But then equally, like growing up, the thing that I've given the most hours is things like Grand Theft Auto, like, you know, the photo real and things that give full realization. Shadow of Colossus, but then there's just one game. So I haven't played many Final Fantasies, but there's this one called Star Ocean. Have you ever played that one?
No.
Till the end of time. It's very similar. It's like, you know, you got a party, everyone's got their classes, and it's got an epic storyline. That's another one where I just fell in love with and just gave so many hours as well. But yeah, like yourself, I think for me, I'm just down for anything that draws me in. Another one that really kind of like, obviously forgot to mention Metal Gear Solids, anything Kojima makes, but Death Stranding really kind of like, I fell in love with that game. Like when I played it, and it just, every single thing about it, even the high concept stuff, I'm just like, yes, give me more. Like I just love it. I just love that.
Yeah,
and I hate
was
horror
very.
stuff. Like you mentioned, like it's so horror, like you mentioned there, like I avoid it, not because I don't enjoy it. I just don't like to be made to be scared, and I don't want to
get
intentionally be scared. Like there's a new film coming out, Nosferatu. I really want to watch that, but I don't like the fact that it's probably going to be scary. But I also like the director, so I'll go put through it. Death Stranding is another one. Like the subject matter, like no, it's these basically death, demonic kind of things. But the game was just so like enthralling and engaging. I went through it, so it's fine.
Yeah, for Death Stranding, it's very weird for me because I didn't manage to finish it. It's too abstract. I get too lost on the history, and it gets too long.
Yes.
But I keep trying to come back to it for some reason, just because I like to be around and I like to be in that world.
Yes.
But I don't manage to finish it, so I couldn't say if I like it or not.
Got it.
It's very weird. It's very weird.
No, I'm the same. Like there's some, and I think maybe it's just again not having the time now. I'm happy just to enjoy the game. I don't need to finish it, like unless I really want to know the story kind of thing. But there are some where, like, yeah, I've just, especially when I was younger, I didn't want to play the game, but I didn't put the controller down, so I just kept going and going and going, like almost like a zombie, just exploring stuff. And yeah, games is fascinating. What about other mediums though, like films, and you mentioned books as well? Like, do you have anything that comes close to the kind of passion, love you have that video games can give you?
Guess I think the closest thing is TV shows more than films. But I guess the fact that you stay with them more than in a film.
So like a game, like it's 10, 20 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, and almost more if you have to wait for the next episode because it stays for longer with you, I guess.
So do you prefer that? Do you don't like binging? You prefer waiting?
No, I do.
Okay.
If they are available, I will do.
Yes.
But sometimes I like that they don't let me do that just to stay longer there.
Yes.
Because I have another thing. For example, if I get into one game, I cannot be jumping into another.
Same. Yeah.
Also, it's not only the controllers or anything. It's just, I don't know, the Switch. I need to stay in this reality. And even if I really love that game, if I finish it, I need a couple of days to cool off before entering another game. Because I stay there. I don't know.
I get it. Yeah.
So with TV shows, if I have the next episode available, I need to continue. But yeah, I like them more because it's like you get closer to the characters and the general IP and the world because you stay there for more time. In the film, sometimes, yeah, you get the same level of, it's amazing, but it lasts just 2 or 3 hours at most. And then the next day is gone. And I don't know, it's too short.
No, true,
So I guess TV shows would be the next thing. I really like to watch TV shows. Nowadays I don't read that much. I mean, I guess it's very common. I feel less patient and, but, for example, the Witcher, I read the books when I was a teenager, or at least the first four books. I was quite fan of it before it was famous or anything.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, I guess reading those kind of sagas, it used to be another thing closer to video games.
Now you just mentioned it, like books. when I read them, I enjoy them, but I haven't read a book properly for a very, very, very long time. I'd probably say like
It's your brain is melting.
2010-ish, maybe a little bit, like around 2010 was the last time. The
Mm-hmm.
last one I read, and even then it was audiobooks because I was doing my final degree at the time, so I didn't have time to like have a read a book. I listened to it instead. Was the Dark Tower series? Are you familiar with that from Stephen King?
The which one?
The Dark Tower.
No.
It's like seven books. I'm absolutely in love with that. And I, again, for someone who doesn't like horror, Stephen King is like the king of horror.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And it's,
But not
again,
in books. You are not so scared in books, right? Or you
I
are?
don't know.
Because
No,
sometimes
again,
it's...
so if it's done really well, like I don't mind. Like I think horror stuff I watched of recent times that I really enjoyed was The Witch, which is Rupert Eggers again. And then I watched Longlegs recently as well, which
yeah.
I don't like. It very creeped me out, but it's very well done, I thought. So I enjoy that kind of stuff. So that kind of stuff, like if it's really well done, I'll be happy afterwards. But I just don't like the experience of, like just that kind of stuff, which is fine. I'm one of those guys. Even games like back in the day, I don't know why. There's a level in I think Tomb Raider 2 that I found scary. I found Tomb Raider 2 scary of all kind of games that it could be. But the Dark Tower, I highly recommend it. They tried to make it into like a film many years ago, didn't work for whatever reason. They did a good cast, to be fair, but it's one of those. It's like epic. Like I'd say it's more epic than Lord of the Rings, even though they made that into a film. It's just more going on, and it's like multiverse type things. But it's just so good. It's so good. But TV shows, I'm similar. Like I love them. I love watching them. I recently finished The Penguin, which I absolutely adore.
Me too.
So
I'm in love with that. They did such a brilliant job with a character that most people don't like, and so
Precisely.
amazing. Not to spoil anything, but everybody should watch it.
Oh man, and even to like when you nerd out, like it's like you love it because I love like the Batman universe. I love the Batman.
Yeah, me too.
I think it has the best bad guys, for example. So when it's done really well, I'm happy. And again, Penguin of all of them is the one that I'm like, not first. Like, Penguin, So for them, which is probably the best canvas you can have because it literally is a blank canvas. Like no one really cares, so to go wild with it. I'd love to hear people's opinions about it, but shows wise of recent times, especially like that scale of show, especially of an IP that's very famous. Wow, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's brilliant because it's a character that is nasty, to be honest.
Yes.
I don't know. I've never been so interested in him, and I love the Batman universe, but
yes.
But they did it so well, and it's very realistic at the same time. They keep the penguin magic. Exactly. Yes. They keep the essence so well. It's so well written and so well acted. The actors are fantastic.
Colin
I don't
Farrell,
no. Every episode was better than the one before, and I don't know. That is surprising. I don't want to spoil anything, of course. But, my God!
Like it's one of those shows where like when I get excited over something, especially the people around me, I don't shut up until they've experienced it too. And if they don't like it, then I'll get like, okay, your opinion is not worth it to me. But if they like it as well, it's like, yes, we're friends. But it's one of those where I want people to like really watch and enjoy it, and I don't want to spoil it for them. And there's sometimes people are like, well, summarize it for me. Just tell me what the good parts are. I have a friend who does that. He's like, just tell me what the key beats are and I'll enjoy it through you, as opposed to like, because he's lazy, just like do that. But no, like, I want you to watch it. I want you to experience it. I want to, like know what your take was when the certain moments happen and stuff. And yeah, I get super happy over things like that.
I remember we ended so like doing literally like, wow.
Yes. Oh man. Yes.
Well, I cannot sleep now.
Exactly. Yes. No, there's certain things like that. There's many shows like I watched Shogun this year, which I thought was excellent. I don't know if you've seen Shogun.
No. Actually, I started and for some reason I forgot to continue. I don't know. Okay, it was good then.
No spoilers. It's just like, again, I don't think it's one of those where it's like, even if you do get spoilers, it doesn't matter. Like, it's so good. Okay. I personally think like it's excellent. Like, so well done. It's a limited series as well, which I think really helps because it's not about, and I think Penguin's the same. It's not like about we need to get money for 5 seasons. And I understand the economy, the production, but when there's a story to be told and you're only going to tell it once and you know what you need, then you're going to get some very rich, amazing storytelling and stuff like that as well. So yeah, and like you said as well, when you spend like 10 hours in a universe or a world, it grows on you. You get familiar, like it's you're part of it as well.
Yeah.
I think Game of Thrones had a great example, like Decade. I think it's Decade it lasted. So we're all familiar with Winterfell, King's Landing, and all these familiar places, almost like how we're familiar with the 7 wonders of the world. And that does it does something in a creative sense, especially when you're trying to like experience what you're trying to experience as well. That's enough of me rambling on about, like shows and stuff. I could not stop. A few final topics before we wrap up. Your work, what's your like highlights of your career, like projects you've worked on that you've really enjoyed or that really helped define you as a creative?
Good question. Well, when I got into the first time I got into Games Workshop, it was my first thing. And it's something that's, as a teenager, usually you enjoy or go to the shops and it's like, oh my God, I'm gonna be doing those illustrations. I was super happy. I remember my family because I just moved to UK for work to look for work in the industry. So they were so happy they printed Marines and Orcs face masks to do a Skype with me. That was very happy. And then I really enjoy when I work for Beyond a Steel Sky. It's not a super famous game, but the team were very nice and very family feeling. It was a small place, but they were very close to me. And I don't know, just a very chill place that I like to treat with them. I had the chance to design the architecture of the city, and the city mixes like 3 kinds of architecture styles. So I really like designing those kind of things. It was amazing to have the chance to design the whole kind of style of the city. And also it's a sequel of graphic adventure from the 90s. It was the sequel from Beneath a Steel Sky. And I used to love those kind of adventures, the point and click adventures. So that was quite nice to work on. And then I love when I got to work with Magic. That was amazing because it was very fun because I tried at the start and I didn't hear back from them because the quality was not there or it didn't click or anything. And in 2020, they just contacted me out of the blue. So I wasn't trying. It's like, what happened? It's like 3 years later.
Wow.
It paid off. It was, it's really nice. And I love working with them because it's very easy to fit with other jobs. And it totally fulfills my crave of illustrations. So I think those are my favorite parts.
And do you have like, maybe not like companies or IPs, or maybe it is any places you'd like to work or like to leave your stamp?
Yeah, I have several things I like. Again, things like the games from CD Projekt I really love. I find it hard because sometimes it's like full time in the studio gigs and probably they don't work with freelancers or remote people. Nowadays, probably they are more open, but I really want to work in one of those big games. I don't know. It's not that they are always better, but it's something I always wanted to do. I want to be part of something like that. And I also love narrative games like Detroit or kind of Alan Wake. Those kind of games I really love too. So any company working on those kind of projects, I think I would enjoy it a lot.
Cool. And at the time of this, although this is going to be released in 2025, we're actually recording this towards the end of 2024. How would you review your year this year, and what do you have planned, if anything, for next year?
Well, I will describe it as madness because I started working in sound. I was working in sound, with that drama they have with the IP and the other developers and just crazy internal developments. I was part of the layoffs. But again, I was missing the freelance life and I wasn't too convinced of how things were going at that specific moment. So It wasn't that bad at the end. But of course, the industry is crazy. So this year. So I went in the layoff. I took advantage of the first month I was more free and I took a couple of classes, thinking I was going to have more time, and at the end I didn't have so much time. I did lots of magic cards in a go because I was more available, so I took more. Suddenly I was going to start working with Axis again, that I used to work with them before being in sound. But then a few days before I was going to start in a new project with them, they crashed too. That was very sad. So it was all the time like this.
Wow, yeah.
I was like, okay, doesn't work neither. And suddenly I was hired by for a while. So, but at the end it was for the better, like most of the bad things that happened. Of course, I feel very bad for Axis because I really enjoy working with them and there were so many nice people there. But again, all the time you think it's going to be dramatic because, the layoff and this thing, but suddenly other opportunity arrive. And for me, it was totally like this, but for the good, I think, at the end. And my plan for next year is, again, I feel that I'm going to stay for a bit more in like I'm doing now, probably doing magic at the side and keep working with. I don't know. I'll see what opportunities appear because the thing for now is not like forever. It's a contract that's ongoing, but it's not like full time. It's a contract.
Yes.
But apart from that, I want to fix a bit that relationship with the personal work and see if I can keep it going in a bit of a steady way that is not burning out with the rest of the work or not. Just trying to figure out also how to finish things without having a client telling me how to finish them.
Yeah.
So that's my main plan. And if I have to think on something else professionally, that it could be getting into, I would love to get into a big game like those because I've been working more in small, medium games.
Right.
I don't know, I just really like to experience one of those big IPs. Maybe at the end it's not as fulfilling as other, I don't know. You never know. It depends on the project, on who are you working with. But yeah, I don't know. I would like to work on one of those IPs that I really love.
Amazing. Final question before we wrap up. Any final words from yourself to the listeners?
Probably this year would be fitting to some encouraging words. Like, for example, this madness year that sometimes you think something is going to be, horrible, very bad news. And at the end, it can turn out for the best. For example, when I was starting out too, I work in that small company that I told you that didn't went well at the end. I had a good use of it because I got a starting portfolio there, but it didn't went well at the end. But that made me jump without overthinking it into freelancing Because sometimes it's like, oh, you wait for the perfect time, you have the connections, the experience, and I didn't have any like that. I just, it's like, oh, God, I want to be freelance. And I became freelance and all went well. And I think that kept me going for 10 years in a very fulfilling job and experienced lots of different projects that maybe if I stay just waiting forever in a place that I don't like, and it wouldn't happen. Or so yeah, I think don't desperate because the industry goes up and down. You never know when something is coming from. Again, for example, Magic the Gathering came for me in the unexpected moment. You just need to be there all the time, just keeping doing what you like, showing it, because the good thing is every artist is unique and your voice is unique, and it doesn't matter what happened, nobody can take that and nothing can replace that. So it can work in a way that you don't expect. So just keep going and probably it will improve, and at some time something will come that you don't expect. But you need to be there to take it, and you need to keep it. I mean, you need to be ready to open the door to the luck.
Of course, yes.
So you need to be lucky, but you need to be there to take it. So yeah, well, and sometimes it's just don't desperate, because I see when I analyze my year, it's like, okay, nothing happened. Actually, I had more work than other years. But when I go to LinkedIn, it's like, oh my God, the world is ending. Everything is burning. I'm gonna be dead. I don't know. It's horrible. But when you analyze your own reality, sometimes it's not as hard. So just focus on what you can do and what you can manage right now, and don't think so far away, because there is always some kind of crisis or some kind of threat or some kind of, especially in these industries, it's all the time going up and down, and sometimes it's not the ideal time, or you don't get the ideal opportunities, but life finds a way, like Jurassic Park.
Exactly, yes. Marina, it's been absolutely amazing. Thanks so much for jumping on.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thanks to you. I'm very happy to be part of this podcast.
Thanks so much. Huge thanks to Marina for an amazing conversation and for being so open about her experiences. Please hit the links to follow Marina and see what she's up to. And then head to Learnsquared.com and take some of the same courses that Marina has done and level up your workflows. I've been your host, Aaron Danda. Till next time.